Hello, I'm Don Hall. This is Don Hall Works YouTube channel, and I'm here in Merced, California, in the studio of Loren Lukens. And Loren's going to demonstrate some altered work for us. Say hello, Loren.
Hey, nice to meet you. I'm going to be doing some things, throwing some pieces on the wheel, and then altering them into shapes like this. I'm going to start with a little wedging, as one does. I'm using B-Mix from Laguna. It's cone 5, cone 6 electric. I'm trying to adjust to cone 6 electric firing after 50 years of firing reduction at cone 10. So it's all new to me. Standard spiral wedge gets you warmed up. So when I put a bat on the wheel, I don't use the pins that everybody else does. I throw a bat. It's a really good way to attach a bat to a wheel because you can put any size bat on. You can use any piece of wood that you find. You could use a board from your yard and it would attach, and you could throw a pot on it. So I'll do a double ring. The smaller ring in the center will be for small bats, and the larger ring on the outside will be for the larger bats. This ring will be a little higher, and this one will be a little lower so that the small bat will fit inside of the ring. And then I give it a gap so that it doesn't make a suction when it attaches. All right, let's get going. So a little moisture on the back of the bat, and then more or less center it. Tap it down, and you're ready to go. I'm going to start by throwing a piece that will be altered into a non-round shape. A monkey can make a round pot. Standard way of throwing, centering. But I'm going to open all the way to the bat till I'm touching the bat. And then a little moisture on the inside, and I'll pull that ring out, keeping the wall of the pot attached to the bat the whole time. And then pull a wall just like you would throw any other pot. One final push, pull, and that's as far as I'm going to go. Now I'm going to rib this piece. I use a solid steel rib. It's non-flexible. It's a little bit like using a wooden bat, but I like the edge. I'm actually using the very flat edge of this as my ribbing surface. The first pass up the outside to smooth it. I'm trying to get rid of all the throwing lines. That's part of it. I'm also shaping, but this will be a decorated piece, and I don't want throwing lines. So now I'll use the rib on the inside, pushing out against my finger that's on the outside. And then I'll clean up the inside and leave a little water, and it's time to cut this one off. All right, it's time to cut this baby off. And to do that, I'm leaving a little water on the inside using a flexible fettling knife and cutting from the inside to the outside. And then, before I get going too far, I'm going to add a little more water to the inside and the outside, give it a little extra push of water underneath so that it's totally able to move. All right, let's alter this. I had pulled water underneath the wall and it's separated so it's ready to slide. So I'll pull one end out, pull another edge out, pull the other third corner out. I'm trying to make it sort of triangular, but not so much. I'm going to make it more of a boomerang shape by pushing one wall in. Trying to avoid it being a heart because I don't want to make a heart here. Let's make something maybe more kidney shaped perhaps. And when I like the shape that I've made, I'll use my finger to reattach it to the back. And this is really setting the ultimate shape of the piece. It's when you drag your finger around like this and you're setting it the way the foot is going to look. You have a malleable wall, and take advantage of it because you can really push this thing around. For years I used this technique to make baking dishes, and I think you'll see that people have done this before, but this is just a little different twist on the same concept. And I get the water out of the inside, dry my hands so that I'm not sticky. I found this bee mix can be really slimy clay, and I have to be very careful about that for fingerprints and things. So now I'm going to alter the shape around the top edge, standing the wall up where I want it to be a little straighter and letting it relax where I want it to be. And you can even make it pinch the wall a little bit here together to make a point. That's a nice shape right there. All right, now it's time to make a bottom for this altered piece. And you could just roll a slab, and that would be simple, but why make it simple? Let's do something a little more complex. I'm going to do something that has a wiggle wire pulled through a thrown piece. And it has, the back is thrown, the wiggle wire is on the inside. I'll show you how it's done. All right, let's make the bottom for this. All I'm going to be doing now is throwing a slab, essentially, on the wheel with no wall. And I'll be pulling a wire under it, so it needs to be thick enough to accommodate that. Not a bad idea to check your thickness to see what you got. I got a little more room, still a little thinner. Make sure that it's big enough to accommodate the size of the piece that you've altered. Now in this case, the surface right here will be the very bottom of the pot, and the other side with the wiggle wire will be the part you see from the outside. So for the purpose of interest, I'll give this a little swoop. So now it's ready to wiggle wire. You've probably all used these before. It's a twisted wire that has lots of serrations in it. And I'm going to pull and give a little seesaw action just for the fun of it. And this is for illustrative purposes only. I'll just show you what we got. So now I've cut the wiggle wire through the piece and pulled it off, and now I could lay it down It'll dry a little bit and it's ready to assemble.
While we waited for those pieces to dry, Loren threw this really cool bowl and altered it for us.
All right, I'm going to throw something. This has been altered, but not in the same sort of way. It's a pretty standard throw. So many videos of people throwing, right? It's all available out there. You can learn a lot from little videos, just watching people again and again. There's nothing like watching somebody throw to be able to really learn. So I'm throwing with a bottom in it this time, with enough room on the bottom so I can trim a foot. I'm going to leave a big fat lip, and I'm going to split the lip a couple of times after the very first pull. Establish that split right at the beginning, and then I'll maintain it throughout the throw. Three pulls, that's all you get. Anything more than 3 pulls and you're working backwards. So that was 1, this is number 2. Maintain that split lip. And now for pull number 3. Release the pressure a little as you get to the top. Hardly any pressure. It's thinning itself just by moving out. Still maintaining the split lip, and I'll reinforce it now. Now I'll do use that same solid rib, stiff rib. And you see the angle of my rib, it's almost perpendicular to the clay. It's not a smoothing out, it's almost like you have another finger there. Could be called another pull, but with a rib. And then shape this from the inside. I'm supporting with my outside finger. Ribbing from the top to the bottom. So you're ribbing against the grain a little bit. So it's a little bit like salmon swimming upstream. But that's the way to do the ribbing, is from the top to the bottom rather than the bottom to the top. That way you can avoid collapsing the piece. A little more shaping. Supporting it from the outside with a finger. Can't quite see probably from the video. All right. My final stroke is a little bit of a backwards spiral. You see a lot of pots. A lot of people have pots that have a spiral in the center. And I thought for a long time that those were done from the inside out, but no. Do it from the outside in, like that. Now, I'm going to dry my hands a little, get rid of some of that B-mix slime. Clean up these ridges that I've made in the divided rim. And now, I'll start my alteration. Push in with a finger, sweep up on each side of the finger, and you can make a little point. And this little point that holds it in shape. You're squeezing it together to make a little crease. And let's do a foursome, so it'll be one straight across from it. One finger is pushing in, and then the other hand is sweeping and creasing. You can do this 3 points, 5 points, 6 points. You could even do something that's just 2 points, one across from the other, and have it be an interesting looking piece that way. But this squeezed together crease is what holds the piece into its shape. As simple as that. Ta-da! All right, we're going to try to do an assembly here. I've taken these pieces and put them out in the California sun for a few minutes to see if we can make this work. Usually I would do this the next day, but for now, I'm going to assemble this piece onto this base. First, I'll use the fettling knife and deattach, cut it off a little bit so that it's easy to move. And then put this in place, and I'll see if I can get this to move without distorting too much. That more or less worked. On a proper day, if I had given this enough time to have this be truly leather hard, I would assemble this by scoring and slipping. And that'd be the standard way. This is pretty quick, but I'm gonna mark where the attachment is gonna be with my knife. Transfer it back to its bat, and then use a tool to score just a little bit through the squiggles. Give it a shot at attachment. I have lots of slip here from throwing, so I'll just use some of that to get a little slip on this onto the surface. Attaching pieces that are wet is a good way to do it. It's almost the best way to do it. It's just a little difficult to do if you're having to avoid the piece distorting. All right, so there, that's set. I'm not going to try to score the other side. It's just a little too much to ask. But we'll see if we can make this transfer one more time. Hit my marks. And then attach. And I'm squeezing from the inside and the outside, pushing down one little section at a time. Finger on the inside, 2 fingers on the outside, really mushing it down in. And then, once you've attached it all the way around, I'll run my finger right around the inside to seal it really well. I know some people like to put a coil in this space, but I want the seam to be very clean without the additional clay. So I tend to not do that, adding coils to reinforce the seam, if you can avoid it. And then use a similar technique on the outside. This is an interesting tool. This is a piece of wild water buffalo horn that I got in China. Wonderful tool. Plastic works too, but I like the sound of buffalo horn. So I'm sealing this around the outside using this tool. And it also gives me a place to cut. And I use a fettling knife that has a bend put into it, like this, so I can get a nice straight cut all the way around. The finish of this will be done after it's dried for a good bit of time, leather hard or so. I'll give it one more little seam seal with that stiff rib to mush together the two pieces. And it's ready to set aside.
Well, thank you, Loren. That was really informative, and I'm sure everybody enjoyed watching it. Please subscribe to our channel at Don Hall Works YouTube.
It's not too much of a heart, is it?